to speculate and look at it. I think the view here, which has been shared, I think eloquently by Patrick, is that, you know, the government has an opportunity and an obligation to creating the best environment it can to allow businesses to thrive, because those businesses are the ones that allow, you know, funds to move. I think that you have, you know, businesses that are suppliers, you have businesses that are providing raw materials of, you know, finished goods. And so really, I think if we're looking at what measures to take, part of it is also to look back at what engineer said, which is what were these measures that were tabled and recommended that the government could consider? Because if we're starting almost from scratch, as it were, going back as far as 2022, then that's how to look at this, less as an obligation and more as an opportunity. I think one of the biggest chances the government has now is to table what you might call more progressive ideas and ideals that meet the business community and private sector with areas it's been asking, recommending, suggesting as far back as last year. And so what might that look like when the government's really coming to the table with a bill that looks like it has incorporated the views, maybe even as far as some of Gen Z's views, but most notably those of the private sector. I think that's the big opportunity in front of us, but it's hard to tell what approach there might be tabling a second bill now.
Right, Judy, this government is very much against subsidies, right? So maybe handouts would be a bit of a reach for a lot of the businesses that were, you know, affected. However, what is the social responsibility of this government to its people, considering some of the losses that they have set themselves?
Yeah, it is a difficult period because, of course, we are within this very constrained, you know, financial fiscal space. And at the same time, the impacts of the recent protests have really, of course, not only affected businesses, but also citizens. We do have people who've lost their lives. And I think it's also important to acknowledge that there have been losses, you know, to that extent. But I also want to look at it a bit differently in terms of the opportunities for business going forward, in terms of what can we learn in terms of future-proofing business. A lot of the discussions we've had in the past and looking at what is playing out, you know, in our current operating context is that the role of business in society is practically changing right in front of our eyes. And I think this presents us an opportunity to begin to ask ourselves, what is the role of business even in the political space? We know businesses, you know, wield a lot of influence. They wield a lot of, I mean, they're holders of capital and all these resources that can also be deployed to help us reset, you know, this social contract that has been broken.